What's up YouTube? Scott, Skyny Tradition, back with a Mailday video. Recently got in an awesome card that I want to share with you guys today, and one of the nicer examples I've seen in the recent past. So I'll go through the card, and then I'll kind of bring up some of the sales history of this card, because it's not a card that transacts a whole lot, but it is a big time card. You can get a hint of what that card is by looking at the background of the screen here. I have VCP up, just to kind of look at a few of the prior sales. So let's get right into it. So this is the card, the 1948 Leaf Chuck Bednarik rookie card. Obviously an amazing player for the Eagles for many years. Was the last of the 60 Minutemen, which were players that played both ways, offense and defense. Obviously was a world-class center on offense, but also played defense as well. And he just is a part of some huge plays in NFL history. The hit on Frank Gifford that knocked him out for like a year and a half. There was that play. And then he did make the game-saving tackle against my Packers in the NFL championship game. And that was Vince Lombardi's actually his only loss in the playoffs, was against the Eagles and Chuck Bednarik in the Packers' first championship try. So, player that's really highly sought of in Philadelphia history, and just a lot of stories with this guy. Just exemplified toughness. I find it hilarious that he actually sold concrete for 20 plus years while he played. A lot of the players back then had off-season jobs because they just didn't make that much money during the season. So that's where he got his nickname, Concrete Charlie, was because he actually sold concrete, which is pretty awesome. So as you can see, this is just a really nice example of the card. I mean, it's a PSA 3. There is a slight wrinkle right there on the left, ever so slightly, you can see it, but it's really not super prevalent. But the main reason that this card was so sought after by me is the centering. You just oftentimes don't find this centered this well, and definitely one of the most sought after cards in that 48 Leaf set. Maybe this one and the Sammy Baugh. The Sammy Baugh rookie card is probably a little more prevalent out there. This one's only pop 176 overall, so not a ton of these out there have been graded, and even the ones that have graded a little bit higher, as you'll see when I start going through the previous sales, the centering is something to be desired, and there's a reason for that. This card came out in two different series. Series 1, cards 1 through 49, and Series 2, cards 51 through 98. Excuse me, 50 through 98. And this card is number 54, so that falls into that second series, which is short printed. So that's one reason that makes this card a little more scarce. And then what makes it condition sensitive is the fact that the first 7 and the last 7 in that second series, so cards numbered 50 through 56 and 92 through 98, had really bad centering issues. Most of the right-sided borders are barely anything, and most of the borders actually on the left side. So this one, to find one like this, is definitely a scarcity for this card. So I'm just super happy to be able to add this in the collection. Definitely paid up for it a little bit, but the fact that you just don't see these, I think will become apparent here as we start going through the history a little bit. So we'll set that aside for now, and I'm just gonna bring you up some of the sales history. So I had it in a 3. So these are the last couple 2s that have sold. This is one that sold in February of this year for about $1,135, and you can see that right to left centering on that card. This is what they normally look like. Not super great. Another 2 sold back in January, and you can tell it looks similar with the very little border on the one side. Then you start looking at the 3s, and this is the last sale here. This is the one that I purchased. Just a beautiful example of the card. And let's look at some other 3s that have sold. Before I purchased this one a couple weeks ago, the last one to sell was April of last year, and that is what it looked like. You can see the lack of border on one side, and you just see a lot of them that look like that. That one sold for $1,500 back then. And here's another 3 that sold. This one sold back in 2022, so over 2 years ago. Again, you can see that border right to left. So you say, okay, well, maybe you can find a higher grade one, right? Let's go up to PSA 4. The last PSA 4, there was one that sold in June and sold for $2,600. And again, right to left centering on this one definitely has issues, as we've been seeing with all the other ones. This one doesn't look too bad. It's got top to bottom centering issues as well, though. And then one sold in April of this year from 4 Sharp Corners, $2,900, and again, almost a right-hand border that's non-existent. And then one sold last October for $2,250. Again, right to left border. This is an old label right here. Yeah, you tend to see that a lot. But then you start getting into the higher grade ones, like, and I call it a higher grade because about a 5 or a 6 is about as good as you're going to do for this card. This is a PSA 5. Last sale was in June of this year, $4,300. Again, you can see the right to left centering issue. Now this one has that right to left issue, but the borders actually look pretty good on the card. And then you can see this one here sold in March of this year for $6,300. And again, you got that right to left centering issue. You just see that so often. Here's one that sold for $6,000 back in 2022. Now these borders here are a little more full. This is kind of a nicer, really nice example at a PSA 5. But again, you're paying $6,000. Then you start getting up in like a PSA 6, right? And a lot of these, this one sold in March of last year, $11,000 for a PSA 6. And you can see the space here on the border too. Unfortunately, with this 48 leaf set, trimmers had a heyday with this set because some of these cards were released a little bigger. So they just have like a wider range of what PSA will tolerate for grading them. So if you can find a card that's a little oversized slightly, you can potentially be able to trim a little bit off and to make that card look a lot better than it normally would be. So this set was just butchered in trimming, unfortunately. And here's another example. Again, $11,600 for a 6. The borders on this one actually don't look too bad, but it'd be really hard to tell even if a little trimming was taken off that. You wouldn't be able to tell. And then you start getting up in like PSA 7, and you're talking like, this last sale was from 2020 at $13,200. Borders look pretty good on that one, actually. So suffice it to say, this PSA 3 is like all I could ever want for this card. I wouldn't even want to pay $11,000, $12,000, $13,000 for a PSA 7 that I'd really have to be concerned about that trimming, just because this set was notoriously had that wide variance of sizes. So this one is a nice full bordered example and very nicely centered, and the color looks beautiful on it. So just super excited to be able to get this in the PC. So hopefully you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about Chuck Bednarik. Obviously, if you look at all this data here, he does not sell very often. You got maybe 10, 15 sales across all grades over the last 4 years. So you just don't see this card come up very often. And so when I saw this one in this shape, I was very pleased to jump on it, even though I had to pay up a little bit. I think this one looks a lot better than some of the 4s and 5s that I pulled up. So I wouldn't even want those for that price, to be honest. So thank you guys for watching. Again, real happy to have the Concrete Charlie in the collection, and I felt like this card deserved its own video, just because it's such an amazing card. So hope you guys are doing well. For those of you going to the National next week, hope you enjoy it. I'm going to be missing this National, but I will be back, God willing, in 2025. Be really looking forward to get to that one. So hopefully you guys find something cool down there, and hopefully you enjoy your time we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.